Let me start out by thanking everyone for posting your questions and making this video possible. Let's begin. You think that Christy Tick was very fortunate to get released early out of the commission case sentence. He was released in September 2014 while sentenced to 100 years and was able to have 4 years of freedom before dying in 2018. So I would say he was extremely lucky. Was it frowned upon in the mafia if you didn't have a wife and children? Or did most not care about your personal life as long as you earned and did what you were told? Whether you had a family or not didn't matter. There were a lot of guys that weren't married. Your personal life is really nobody's business. Which brings us to the following corresponding question. Could a made guy have a black or Hispanic gomada, or would it be frowned upon? Gomada being girlfriend or side girl. And again, what a guy does in his personal life, whether he dates black, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever, is nobody's business. If there was one thing you could have said to Anthony Casso, what would it be and why? That's a difficult question to answer because it would depend at what point in time you're referring to. So I'll assume you mean at the very end. And what I would say would be in the form of a question, which would be, was it all worth it? Because at the end of the day, he wound up receiving 455 years and ultimately died in prison anyway. Are the Bananos and Lucchese's on good terms if Big John is meeting with Mancuso and Spirito? First of all, I never said he met with Mancuso. I said Mancuso was also spotted in Long Beach and never said he was speaking with Big John. And secondly, just because guys meet doesn't mean that families are or aren't on good terms. What advice would you give someone who's never been in any sort of legal trouble to survive in prison? There are some basic and fundamental rules to follow. Stay away from gambling, drugs, and homosexuals, and mind your business. But more importantly, don't do anything that could put yourself in prison in the first place. Do you think Vito Guzzo will be recognized as a made man by other families once he gets out, considering he was made in a prison bathroom and not on the outside? They'll definitely recognize him. And for the record, let me just add, this was information first told by me in a video because no one knew Vito got straightened out in prison and what was involved behind it. In your opinion, what family will Peter Pan land with after his bid? He's already landed in Philly, which will absolutely come back to bite them one day. After you were released from prison, how much time passed before you were put on record with the Lucchese's? I was released in June 2007 and didn't start going around the Lucchese's until about 2012 or somewhere around that period of time. Hypothetically speaking, as a boss in your former life, how would you have gone about uniting the Brooklyn and Bronx factions? Look, I was never a boss and wouldn't even envision to be one hypothetically, but for the sake of answering, a smart thing to do is to take a look at the Brooklyn and Bronx crews, divide the men in half, and place half the guys from Brooklyn with the Bronx crews and the Bronx half with the Brooklyn crews. By doing this, they would be forced to be around each other. It's easy to dislike someone you don't know from a distance. Conversely, when you're in their company, you might find your preconceived notions are unjustified. In your opinion, should the commission have been disbanded due to all the bosses and high-ranking members flipping? To start with, who said the commission is still a thing today? I was never a boss and obviously didn't sit on a commission. So I can't officially say this, but during my time, there would be certain bosses who would meet to discuss various things. Not as a commission. And I've never heard of a commission meeting taking place back then. How did each family keep track of old membership lists if they are to be destroyed? How do you prevent other families from reusing deceased members' names more than once in order to increase the membership capacity? As far as any lists go, I have no idea what's done with them and never had anything to do with the list of every member in the family. When a family passes around the names of people they're looking to induct, lists like that I've seen, trust me, people pay close attention to not only the name of the proposed member, but who he's replacing. Did you know or have any personal run-ins with Michael Paradiso? If so, what was he like? I was formally introduced to Mickey Boy by Ernie Grillo and was in his company a few times. He was an old-school tough guy and reminded me of my friend Johnny Santori, a rough-and-tumble type of guy. When you were in the life, who was the most intelligent business person you met or heard about? As far as business and intelligence, in my opinion, Ernie Grillo fits both categories. Ernie was extremely intelligent and possessed a good business mind. He was very methodical in everything that he did. Did you know of any made guys or associates who were Catholic that were prevented by the church from attending church-related functions or activities due to their mafia lifestyle? The only time I've heard of the Catholic Church denying someone would be a Catholic funeral mass. And at that point, the person in question didn't care because they were already dead. The thing of calling another guy Mo, what does it mean? In one video, you said that your captain, Big John, started a sentence with, "Hey Mo." It doesn't specifically mean anything. Some guys use Mo, other guys use Bo, and some people use comp, short for compadre, which is like a buddy. Years ago, guys like my grandfather would call guys Mac. I guess it's kind of like a slang greeting. The mob still exists in a watered-down version. After the early 90s, do you think its rapid decline could have been avoided, or was it purely inevitable due to CCTV, informants, wiretaps, RICO, etc.? There were many factors that attributed to the mob's decline, some of which you mentioned. Informants, indictments, racketeering charges, all have done damage throughout the years. Security cameras, and now drones, play a major role. For instance, I was just given security footage of guys in a silver Cybertruck that's been lurking outside a relative's house. So the mob has not only fell into a steady decline, but grew more stupid along the way. This next question made me laugh. Who were some of the big timers or high-ranking mobsters you met during your teenage years? How would you conduct yourself when you met these people? Did you fanboy over them, or were you more reserved? I've met and was around so many guys by my teenage years, too many to name, and was always respectful when around them, most of the time saying very little and listening more. And never in my life was I a fanboy. Sadly, in this day and age, we have grown men who can be described as fanboys. What was the relations between the Irish and Italians throughout the history of the mob? I believe during the mob's earlier years, those relations weren't too good. But guys like Jimmy Burke and the Westies all had good relationships with the mob and were associated to it. Cosa Nostra in America has only a fraction of the tremendous power it once had. Is it still economically profitable to be a boss of a family in New York? Obviously, the money made in the 70s and 80s, for example, was far greater than money being made today. But make no mistake, there's always money to be made. Just to give you an example, if the Lucchese family's handing over $150,000, $200,000 to Vic Amuso just at Christmas time, you could imagine the money that the administration is pocketing. Please remember to like this video if you haven't already. Also, for anyone who wants to show appreciation and help keep this podcast going, you can do so by either the Super Thanks icon down below or the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. And for the final question, if your former friends in that life apologized to you for their betrayal, would you accept it? The first thing people need to understand is that the mob never admits to being wrong. Trust me, their motto is, even when we're wrong, we're right. Instead, they're professionals at damage control and spin stories condemning the person they wronged, as well as making anyone and everyone believe that the person's a piece of shit. I one time told a story how Patty Delarosso sat before me and called Louis Jet every name in the book. And when I defended Louis, he kept telling me that I really didn't know him and continued to bash Louis's character, only to find out that the very next day, Patty took his car to Louis's shop to have an oil change. So the answer to the question is, the mob and my former friends who are part of it will never apologize, which only leaves me to forgive but never forget.